Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz saxophonist, composer, and educator Michael Thomas. We caught up with him on May 27, 2020 to talk about his latest 2020 CD, Event Horizon. This Grammy award-winning musician has been an active member of the New York City jazz community since arriving in 2011 and has performed throughout the U.S. and abroad with the likes of Brad Mehldau, Dafnis Prieto, Payton, Miguel Zenón, and so many others. He's got a great story. Enjoy.
I figure on my end, it's probably good to reach out and talk about new material, and you have a great album out that, it has a unique place in jazz history because it came out during this quarantine with Event Horizon. So I want to start off and ask you, first of all, a two-part question about the creative approach to this album, and then what you feel about this coming out during a pandemic when, people have more time to listen to it, but you can't back it up with live shows.
Right. So the first part of the question was about the creative aspect of it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm sure you're familiar with Jimmy Katz and what he does and how the organization that he and his wife run functions. But it's a nonprofit that they put together that's able to fund a few projects like this every year. And part of the deal with what they do is they give the artist complete freedom to do what they want to musically and to make any kind of statement that they want, which is a really unique opportunity to be able to do that and to not be, restrained by the financial side of things or to have a label saying, okay, well, we like your band, but can you play this music instead? It's complete freedom. So the way I approached it was basically to, put the band together and the, people that I've played with a lot in different situations, but never in this configuration. But I put the band together and then I just started writing things that I wanted to hear those musicians play, because they all have such distinct voices on their instrument, and it just kind of came together that way because I knew they're playing in a way that let me really write for the band, especially as it was like a new project and we hadn't played together as a quartet before. So creatively it was an opportunity to just approach the writing that way and kind of make the most of the situation.
And then coming out during this time, is it bittersweet?
Yeah, we were supposed to play at Cafe Bohemia a couple weeks ago for the album release, and it would be great to have been able to do that, but understandably we couldn't. So it's been I think, like you say, a little bit bittersweet because I am really excited to have the album out. I'm really excited for people to be able to listen to it. And I think, as you mentioned, people are able to spend more time listening right now, which is really great. And, putting music out there like this, we want it to be listened to. So for the intended audience to really have time to sit down and listen to 2 CDs worth of material, that's like a unique thing right now. But again, it's a different energy when you get to play it live and people can experience it that way. So, it's a little of both, but I think one of the things that's been nice for me that I don't often have time to do is to really, really work on promoting it a little bit myself and, try to get word out and, just get people listening to it even if we can't play it for them.
Let's talk about the beginnings of your life. Where were you born and raised and kind of how jazz became a part of your world?
Well, I grew up in Florida. Well, actually, when I was younger, we lived in DC, but I consider myself to be from Florida. But when we were in DC, my father, who's also a saxophonist, he was in the Air Force band, and that was some of my first exposure to music was being around him and seeing him perform fairly often, and listening to the records that he was listening to. Like I remember growing up and hearing a lot of Phil Woods, a lot of Michael Brecker, a lot of Cannonball Adderley, so that was just what was playing in our house when I was listening to music. So I think a lot of my early inclinations and impressions of what music sounded like was kind of based on that. And, as a saxophonist, I started out mostly studying classical through high school, and working on, all the classical repertoire and that sort of thing. And I became more and more interested in jazz. And by my last year of high school, I had started to give up the classical thing and go fully into jazz and really focus on that. And, then I went to school at the University of Miami and grad school at New England Conservatory in Boston. And I think my time in Boston was especially important for me artistically because I was able to really, I had gotten kind of a foundation for how I wanted to approach the instrument and a lot of aspects of the music in my undergrad. But then there I really had time to focus on writing and trying to play the way that I was really hearing in my head. And another thing that was important about that time for me was it was when I met Jason Palmer, who's playing trumpet on the record. And, besides, going to school in Boston and, studying with Jerry Bergonzi and George Garzone and Miguel Zenón and people like that, playing in Jason's band for 2 years was kind of like a different type of school. I mean, we were playing his original music 3 times a week, and it really pushed me to play at a higher level, largely because of the way he was playing, but also because of the demands of being in that band and just what was expected of us musically every time we played. So I think that was huge for me, was to be able to work with him so much for those 2 years, and then to be able to maintain that relationship after I left Boston and came to New York. And, to be able to play with him on this record, I mean, it felt like I was back home, when the two of us started playing this music together for the first time. So it was a really refreshing feeling to get to that rehearsal. Like nothing had changed between the way that we had played all those years before.
So what was the first live jazz show you saw that really blew your doors down?
I think one of the first ones that really kind of like made me more focused on what I wanted to do was at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville. They had a jazz guest artist series every year, and one of the concerts, I think it must have been when I was in 11th grade or so, but he had Terrence Blanchard's band. The school had Terrence Blanchard come down with his sextet, and it was right around the time that they had released Bounce on, I think it's on Blue Note, but it would have been like 2003 probably. But it was the first time that I had heard people play not just modern jazz per se, but like that specific approach to it, like different meters, different harmonic progressions, things that I hadn't really heard combined in that way before. I think another thing that really like struck me at that gig was it was the first time I heard Aaron Parks, and he had just turned 18 at the time. So he's a year or two older than me, and to see somebody that was so close to my age playing like that with those guys in that band, it kind of just drove me to want to do the same thing musically. So I think that concert was probably a big turning point for me.
What do you like the best about being a musician?
I think one of the things that's really great is being able to connect with different types of people. because, every situation we play in, especially as jazz musicians and, freelancing and doing different gigs in the city, wherever we're playing, we're always playing with somebody new, and it's a chance to learn something else about the music every time you go on stage, and even if you're playing with the same people every week, if it's a steady gig or something like that, they're going to keep evolving, and it pushes you to keep evolving. And I think that's one of the things that's most exciting for me in the music, is to really reach for those moments where you can feel that it's different than the last time that you played it.
So you've had the chance to really, as you kind of mentioned, play with a lot of heavy hitters. I mean, you got cats like Brad Mehldau and all kinds of different people that you played with. What did these people give you that has helped you as a teacher? What kind of lessons and what kind of experiences has helped you?
I think one of the things that, if I had to like pick one thing that really stands out about a lot of the people that I've worked with, like Miguel Zenón, Brad Mehldau, Nicholas Payton, those type of musicians that are, I guess, for lack of a better description, you'd say they're like the best of the best. They're always so focused, even when they're like taking a moment to relax and just hang, there's still like an intensity to what they do that I think I've learned a lot from, and has helped me to sort of shape the way I approach my own playing, and to try to convey that same sort of intensity to my students, so that they can understand what it takes to play at that level.
Let me ask you this. We're going to get to the end of this quarantine, and we're going to get back to live music. We don't know when, but it will happen. And when we do, what do you hope both the musician and the audience realizes from this absence of live music?
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting, because I've talked to a lot of my musician friends in the last couple months about this, and I think from the musician's perspective, everybody's just itching to get back on stage and get back to playing with their bandmates and just be able to make music together again. And I think that's going to bring an entirely new energy to the music that's played after we get out of this. I think also, in that same vein, that energy, I think, it's going to happen naturally as soon as we hit the stage again. But then to be able to sustain that and to sort of like figure out how to ride that creative wave as we continue to get back to normal, so it's not just the first gig, it's not just the first week, it's something that like stands out, but to sort of like capture that and learn how to keep that feeling going when we play. I think it's easy sometimes to take for granted what we get to do as musicians. So hopefully that will give us an opportunity to, sort of bring a little bit more energy and a little bit more intensity to what we're doing, and, hopefully reach for some new stuff and be even more inspired and creative than we were before. And from the audience perspective, I'm just really hoping that this will be a chance for people to realize how important it is to be able to go to a concert, to go to a jazz club, to, go hear live musicians and connect with them as audience members, because it's an experience that's not like any other. And I think being able to participate as an audience member also brings a different energy to the situation. So, when it's time to play again, I'm hoping that the audiences are there, and I'm hoping that they feel the energy that's going to happen from the musicians, and they realize that that's something that they want regularly in their lives, and hopefully it'll create a more supportive audience.
So my final question to you is this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, and your fans, your students, but you're the one that's living your life. Who do you think you are?
Oh, that's a hard question. It's a little bit tough to answer because in the grand scheme of things, I guess I don't really have anything to offer other than being myself, musically, personally, anything like that. So, just to try to be honest with what I'm creating and to try to present that in the way that I feel is most natural for me. I think that's the closest that I can come to being who I am. And, that's something that can change daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, as you have other experiences, as you meet new people, like you never know exactly where you're going to be in the future. So I think one of the things that's most important for me is to just kind of be in the moment and try to be as focused as I can to make the most of that experience as it's happening. I think that's really, in a way, kind of the essence of how I see myself.
Cool, man. I like that answer. Hey, man, thank you for taking some time out for Neon Jazz today. Stay safe. Good luck with everything and the new album. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the call.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Michael for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.